Hey, good day to you. This is Todd. I'm just a regular dude walking in the Word. Thanks for joining us as we are continuing our journey with the book of Esther. We're in episode 2 of the book of Esther. We talked last time how about the different characters in this story. The first two characters in the first chapter of this book is really just Xerxes, which is the king, and his wife, which is Vashti. Okay, there's other minor characters in here, but we don't get introduced to everyone. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about women's lib failed. Okay, and so and keep in mind, back in that day, women really didn't have a whole lot of rights. Okay, they were just a step above slaves. Okay, and you're going to see as we go through this book that even though Esther was a queen, she still couldn't just do whatever she wanted to do. Okay, not at all. All right, so let's look at this here. We're going to start at verse 9 and go all the way through the end of the chapter through verse 22. Okay, so it says this: Queen Vashti also gave a banquet for the women in the royal palace of King Xerxes. Okay, so remember, this whole festival had taken place for 6 months, 180 days. And then the last 7 days, he was really, going all out. And it was fancy couches and goblets. None of them were the same. They were all gold. A lot of wealth here, okay? And this takes place in modern-day Iran, okay? So there's been excavations done in Susa. Susa really is not a town that's used today, okay? But it was popular for this kingdom back then. All right, so let's read. On the 7th day, when the king Xerxes was in high spirits from the wine, he commanded the 7 eunuchs who served him, Mehulam, Biztha, Habrana, Bigtha, Abagtha, Zethar, and Carcass, to bring before him Queen Vashti wearing her royal crown, in order to display her beauty to the people and the nobles, for she was lovely to look at. Okay, so the king wants, he's drunk, okay, and he's like, hey, bring the queen and put the crown on her so we can all look at her, okay? And so he sends the guys to do that. Verse 12, but when the attendants delivered the king's command, Queen Vashti refused to come. Then the king became furious and burned with anger. Since it was customary for the king to consult experts in matters of law and justice, he spoke with the wise men who understood the times and were closest to the king: Kershon, Shetha, Abthamba, Tarshmish, Meres, Marsena, and Mumakan, and 7 nobles of Persia and Media, who had special access to the king and were the highest in the kingdom. Okay, that's a whole bunch of names right there, and it was different from the last bunch that I kind of butchered up. Okay, so he lists all the names that were advisors to him. Verse 15, according to the law, what must be done to Queen Vashti, he asked. She has not obeyed the command of King Xerxes that the eunuchs have taken to her. Then Memucan replied in the presence of the king and the nobles, Queen Vashti has done wrong, not only against the king, but also against all the nobles and the peoples of all the province of Xerxes. He's done wrong. She's done wrong against all these people. Well, this will be interesting. Let's see how this is taking place. For the queen's conduct will become known to all the women, and so they will despise their husbands and say, King Xerxes commanded Queen Vashti to be brought before him, but she would not come. This very day the Persian and Median women of nobility who have heard about the queen's conduct will respond to all the king's nobles in the same way. There will be no end to the disrespect and discord. Okay, so now this guy is basically saying Queen Vashti has, started a women's liberation movement. She can do whatever she wants to do according to her, and she's not going to obey the king. And what's going to happen is now all the other women in the kingdom are going to do like her. And then we as guys are going to be in trouble. Oh no. So let's see what happens. Verse 19, therefore, if it pleases the king, let him issue a royal decree and let it be written in the laws of Persia and Media, which cannot be repealed, that Vashti is never again to enter the presence of King Xerxes. And let the king give her royal position to someone else who is better than she. Then, when the king's edict is proclaimed throughout all the vast realm, all the women will respect their husbands, from the least to the greatest. Okay, let me stop there. You notice what I just read. They were doing the law according to the Medes and Persians, and the law could not be retracted. Okay, so you couldn't have a law and make a law one day, and then, a week later go, that wasn't such a great idea. Let me retract that. Okay. Keep in mind, this area had 127 provinces. So this was a large area. And whenever they made a change in the law or rules or something, they had to send all these guys out to inform the people of this change in law. And you're going to see that play out in the book here, okay, in the book of Esther. So they didn't want these guys, most likely, every other week going and changing laws. And when you get to the edge of the province, close to Greece, you're like, the guys are like, what is the law today? Okay. So they had this rule pertaining to rules that you couldn't be changing them. All right. Once you made that rule, it couldn't be changed. Okay. So, and this actually applied, if you read the book of Daniel, with Darius. Okay. And Darius also had the same issue. He couldn't change laws. Okay. So you'll see how it plays out here. It's kind of, and again, these guys aren't thinking about it with a great amount of time. They're just kind of making some laws, kind of reacting to something. Verse 21. The king and his nobles were pleased with the advice, so the king did as Memucan proposed. He sent dispatches to all the parts of the kingdom, to each province in his own script, and to each people in their own language, proclaiming that every man should be ruler over his own household, using his native tongue. Okay? So they made this law. Okay? So we end the chapter with what's taking place in the story. The king threw a big party, and he called the queen to, stand in front with her crown. And she said, I'm not doing that, stand in front of, and keep in mind, this was all guys she was supposed to stand in front of, not the whole kingdom. And was saying to herself, I'm not standing in front of a bunch of drunk guys, okay? And so, as a result of that, King Xerxes, he's like, oh no, what are we going to do about this? She didn't obey me. And then you have the other guys that have reacted and said, oh no, she's acted like a women's liberation movement of that time, and now the other women are going to want to be liberated too, and we can't have that. We got to keep control on them. So anyway, so they made this law, and in the end, you have King Xerxes. He's now going to be single. Queen Vashti is no longer queen, and she isn't killed. She's just sent away someplace. Who knows where she's sent away, but she's sent away. And so that's how the story will end, the chapter will end, and they're going to have a beauty contest later on to pick a new queen, and that's where Esther comes in. So, thanks for watching. I'm just a regular dude walking in the Word, and I look forward to seeing you as we continue our journey through the book of Esther. Lord's blessing. I'll see you then.